Okay, we're going to just change tack slightly and try and get into the overall broadleaf weed control away from the grasses, because it's a challenge. It may very well, we have a lot more options, and that's a plus. But as against that, the decisions we make now influence the overall cost of weed control. So we have to consider how we're dealing with the broadleaves as well as the grass weeds at the same time, or in sequence. But we just need to know where we're going. So if you take the options that we've been talking about so far, be it Alistair's or what those, Alistair's Broadways, what weeds will be left behind if you're using Alistair now? That will have to be dealt with.
Alistair has a quite broad broadleaf weed spectrum. Probably the one weed that we would expect to come through from it would be marigold. And if you have marigold as an issue, yeah, you'd have to put in something else with it.
But if you were a winter planter and you had got it in December, will we get marigold coming? It wouldn't be one of the ones.
Shouldn't do, but
you never. You got to watch for it.
Yeah.
But
in general, yeah, that's it. Maybe cleavers may come through if they germinate later on, but if they're there and they're only at maybe first, second whirl, Alistair's
they should be able to take them out.
Yeah.
Chris, with Broadway, sorry, Gary, Chris?
Yeah, no, Broadway Star will control a wide range of weeds. I suppose one of its little weaknesses will be fumetry. You'd need to watch that if fumetry was bad, but that can be controlled then with the new chemistry we have in Zipbar, which is a new autumn and spring herbicide, which we launched last year.
Can I kind of just throw in an angled question to that one, and that whatever we're going to do now, assuming that our first attack is grasses plus, is this the time to mix a second product with it to control the weakness, or would you be better off in the main wait and see?
I would say wait and see with the way the year is falling.
Yeah,
definitely.
Because we don't know what else is going to come.
Exactly.
Isn't that the challenge?
Exactly. And when it's going to come, Andy, when the growth starts and everything else.
Yeah.
Well, some of the October sown crops, which maybe the end of October, a lot of the weeds may be coming up, and I suppose you talk about wait and see. I suppose we'll be getting into April quite soon, so a lot of them may be up at that stage. So in those situations, something like Zipbar tank mix with one of the Beirne issues could work quite well. Yeah. As you said, it could be late germinating cleavers coming through, but then other resistant weeds you have to watch. If you've got resistant poppies, resistant chickweeds, they need to be dealt with separately as well, because a lot of the grassweed herbicide products will leave those go through.
Okay, so Gary?
Yeah, the company agronomists, the guys who are out on the ground more than ourselves, unfortunately, they're saying about that there's a lot of stuff to come through yet. And thankfully they know the fields they're on. Like most of those guys are walking the same fields, or 80% of the same fields year on year. So they have a good idea of the weed flush and population that's going to come through. And anything that's coming through now is, there's going to be a big spring proportion of that, or warm weather proportion of that going to germinate. Yeah. It's going to be held back by the weather.
So in other words, walk your fields and know what you're dealing with.
Yeah. Because the guys who are out on the same land every year, they're going to know roughly what to expect. Because if you're in a marigold country, you know you have a marigold problem. Or if you're in a polygonum country, you know you have a polygonum problem.
It's probably even more than what you said, Stephen, because if you walk them today, you can see what's there. Yeah. But because you know the field, you also know what's going to come at you. Yeah, and you can't ignore that problem. No. It may not come. We all accept that, but there's a greater probability it will than it won't. Yeah. So go back then to the guy that may have been out in October, November with an overspray, whatever it was back then, and he has standard stuff in the field. You walk in there and you're finding groundsel in some of them because of, depending on what was moved before. You might find bits of speedwell. Cleaver certainly will be coming through in some fields. What do we think of doing in some of those fields now?
I suppose that's where our strength has been over the last number of years with the broadleaf weeds. And typically this time of year, the first out of the traps for us would be a product like Cameo Max that gets used because it's seen as a mop-up for all the groundsels, which are not, they look ugly, but they're not exactly tough on yield when it comes down to an impact on yield. Mm-hmm. Now, we don't get cleavers obviously at that stage in the year, so we have another product, Ally Ultra, for that end of the market, which has Boxer, one of the product called Boxer built into it, so it picks up the cleaver end of the market. And then you're into volunteer beans. But Speedwell, we found Speedwell now in the last number of years has become much more problematic weed in its occurrence. Its frequency has increased a lot. And then you're
Field Speedwell or just the Speedwell family, because Ivy Leaf seems to be creeping up to me the whole time.
Yeah, I think what happens is that the agronomist identifies it as Speedwell, but then fine-tuning it down to Ivy Leaf Wall Speedwell or Common Field Speedwell sometimes is missed, and then the program is based on Common Field Speedwell, and suddenly you find out you have a flush of Ivy Leaf Speedwell, which is not controlled by most of the chemistry.
What would you control it with? Because it is a growing problem for some people.
DFF was actually quite good pre-emerge on Speedwell,
Okay,
especially
so
the Ivy Leaved.
by pre-emerge you mean you have it on before the weeds come?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So really getting the likes of Alistair on now should get all the Speedwell.
Providing it's not there.
Providing it's not
Yeah.
there, yeah.
But into post-emerge, you're really into, on some of the products you're into rate, because we've had a tendency over the years for rate of spring products to slip down to the kind of 60-70% rate. And you'll actually find with a lot of the weeds that are problematic in our perception to control, there really are. It's only because the rate has become a little bit, possibly pH of water is catching us out too, that we're kind of avoiding the chemistry side of things when you're talking about ALS or an SU chemistry. And all camps have that as core to their chemistry, or the auxin family as well, and they're significantly impacted by water pH. So you could find a reduced rate is further reduced by a high pH water. So if you're running at a 60% rate, you could lose 10 or 15% more activity because of the pH of the water.
We also have this big issue of resistance, which is, I don't know if it's still growing the whole time, but we have it, and we have it in tillage, and if we have it in tillage, we have it in grass. If the weeds are moving about, because they are moving, you could say that. You could say that they're not, but they are, because birds come and go. Once a weed goes to seeds can go anywhere, and it's a problem. So we do have to try now and be extra cautious, not to depend completely on the single family. And if we had to do that a long time ago, we mightn't have a resistance issue, but we are where we are. And where we are dealing with resistance, Chris, if people are using the more common, the allios, the cameos, and all of the different actives that have come from the DuPont stable, and we have resistance, at least there is stuff there, which is, we don't have in all walks of life, but we have on your side with Pixaro coming into different mixes.
Yeah, both Pixaro and Zipar contain the Aralex chemistry, which there's no known resistance to. So it does boost when you're including when you're doing some weed control with some of the SUs. So it's key for resistant weeds like chickweed, which is becoming a bigger problem, not just in winter crops but also spring crops. And one of the things is the ingredient that you normally would have been relying on was Phloxipar, but that finds it difficult to work in cold conditions. And that's the problem. There's not resistance to Phloxipar, but you need warm weather. And that's the key with Zipar, is that it can work in even temperatures like we have now, 0 degrees, 1 degrees, 2 degrees. It'll work in them low conditions.
Can I just take up one quick point in that one? We all talk about the need for temperature and for growth, and we take temperature as the only driver of growth. Are we right in that? And this is, I don't know the answer to the conversation, but look, if you have a crop that's suffering manganese deficiency, short of potash, short of phosphorus, bad on lime, is that equally influencing the growth of the weed and the ability of the chemical to kill it?
Yeah, definitely. Because once your nitrogen cycle slows down the plant for whatever stress reason or temperature reason, the plant starts to shut down. And all our chemistry suffers in that, because if you have any hormone or any hormone, auxin, SU, that needs growth to activate, they all suffer performance. And again, Chris is right, they work at lower temperatures, but there's a point of cut off. If the plant isn't taking in chemistry, if the plant is completely closed down to absorbing chemistry, your rate of efficacy could suffer significantly. But you'd mentioned the chickweed. I know from our camp back in 1993 in Offaly, in Blue Ball in Offaly, was the first time we came across known resistant chickweed. And our assumption, that seems a long time ago, but as you said, it spreads by whatever reason. And we would assume, when we're making recommendations now, we assume at a national level that the chickweed is resistant. All our recommendations are based, and then kind of in light of that, DuPont in their wisdom actually pre-formulated Fluroxipar into one of their SU mixes to make a new liquid mix, Omnera, which has the styrene in it. But again, it needs warmer temperatures. It's still got the styrene. It needs that 8 degrees plus temperature to go and to work. So you do need active growth.
Gentlemen, we've covered a lot. I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you very much.